Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. And as promised in the daily financial news, I brought on an extra special guest, content creator, and an amazing human being to talk about creative financing. I think this is going to become a dominant strategy. It is one that I have yet to use, at least with any great details. So I bring on people that have, and we're bringing on Ryan Nickel. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. Again, I don't know if a lot of people remember this. You'd have to be a true OG on my channel, but you were one of the first bonus sections added to my course. Frankly, of all the bonus sections, they wouldn't exist without you reaching out to me 18 months ago saying, hey, have you thought about this? I can help. And it was your offer, your just sincere ability to help people that really launched all the bonus sections. So thank you for creating yours and inspiring others.
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yeah. So let's talk about creative financing, and let me kind of, why don't you first off define what it is from your aspect? You're doing deals, you've been doing deals, you'll be doing deals in the future, and just talk about it generally speaking. And then I'll highlight why I think it's about to become a dominant strategy.
Yeah, of course. So for me, creative financing is basically not paying for cash and not using the bank. Any way that I can come up with acquiring a property without having to use my own capital or having to go to the bank, that's creative financing for me.
I think that's exactly right. And again, so let me kind of share with you why I think it is about to become a dominant strategy for the industry.
I'd love to hear this. Yeah.
So again, I'm a student of history. I don't mind digging into in video number 2, we're going to talk about the 80s, but I don't mind going backwards. And one of the things that we are going to experience going forward, in my opinion, is a rising rate environment. It is very likely, in my opinion, that the 30-year mortgage will be going up for potentially the next 2 to 4 years, at which point it may flatten for a year or so. And then based on where we are from an economy, once inflation is finally defeated, we may see rates come down. But in theory, rates come 2025, 2026, maybe higher than they are today. And that means much higher than they were in 2020 and 2021. So that's the kindling or the base of what it could become a raging inferno for creative financing. It's the mortgages, it's the fixed rate debt.
Oh, of course. And yeah. Well, no, actually you mentioned about the 80s, and that's exactly what people did.
Yep, exactly. So if you think about it, right, somebody got a loan in 2020, it probably has a 2 on it. They got it in 2021, 2 or a 3 on it. 2022, 3 or a 4 on it. And if we fast forward to 2025, 2026, we've had a long recession. Maybe we've had stagflation for 18 months and then a recession. In the end, the business cycle is real. Recessions are part of the cycle. Our current administration and the Federal Reserve has been trying to protect us from the pain of a recession for quite a while. And just look at California forest fires. It eventually catches up with you.
Yeah.
So we get to a recession. I'm just going to pick a year, 2025, 2026. What happens in a recession? Well, unfortunately, mom and dad lose their home, or maybe mom or just dad. But anyways, we know that most Americans live paycheck to paycheck when both people are working. Also, we know that life happens: death, divorce, hospitalization, have to move for family, for relationships, whatever, life happens. And unfortunately, what is going to happen in a recession is home buyers are, it'll still happen. You'll still have transactions.
Oh, yeah.
But they're going to fall, right? I'm a firm believer that transactions are going to fall the next several years. But if you have to sell when there aren't buyers, sometimes the only way out is creative financing. So that's kind of a long running story of why I think it's going to become a dominant strategy. It's basically the asset, in my opinion, won't be the home. It'll be the debt. And that's going to be, something that's pretty awesome.
And actually not so much the debt per se, but the monthly payment.
Well, yeah.
Because and that's what we do. So we buy some of our houses, and the ones that we're not flipping, we'll actually turn around and we'll sell them on creative financing terms and we'll sell them for premium. And the idea behind that is because people don't buy the purchase price, they're buying the monthly payments.
It's always payments. It's just like cars.
It is.
It's payments.
It's just a large car.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really nice car.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, right, if we're looking out in the future and it's 2024, 2025, we're in a recession. It's been going on for 18 months or 2 years, which, oh, by the way, is the average length of a recession. It's 17 and a half years going back to World War II. There's going to be a lot of people that listed their house. Maybe they had some equity, but they're done, right? They got to get out. And to your point, let's just use rough math. Let's say their payment's $1,000. Rent is 1,500 or whatnot, or payments $1,000, and then you could do a lease option on the other side for 18. I mean, there's lots of ways that you as the operator could take over and then create a spread, and either be the bank or be the landlord. So it's you don't have to use a lot of cash sometimes.
It's true, and this is interesting because so you talk about recessions here. So when there's recessions, bankruptcies also go up as well. And why do people go into bankruptcy? Because they need debt relief.
Yep.
And the one thing they don't think about as far as debt relief is they're looking for hey, I just need to absolve myself of this debt. Well, that's where I actually come in. I never thought of this when I first started this business, but over the years, I've transitioned my mindset into thinking that I'm just offering them debt relief in the form of, let me take over your payments for you. Mm-hmm. And when I offer that, they're like, oh, I don't have to declare bankruptcy. You can take over my payments and I can move on without this problem in my life. Let's do this. Where do I sign up?
Yeah. Yeah. There's just some realities in life, right? A home is the American dream. Sometimes it turns into a nightmare, right? Let's say you're living in California and your new life's in Texas. I'm just making this up as I go.
Yeah. No, that's actually pretty close.
Right. But you can't start your new life until you resolve your old life. And usually the last thing is the home. Most of us reach out to a realtor. We try to sell it. If you have a gob of equity, you could probably take a haircut and give it to a cash buyer or an investor and be gone. But if you bought in the last couple of years and your equity is 6, 8, 12%, and your home needs repairs because you haven't been able to keep up with it, it may work when the market's on fire, like the last 2 years, like bingo, bango, people do bad deals all the time.
Yep.
But in an environment where the homeowner wants perfect, where the investors want margin of safety, where heaven forbid, all of the one-time investors are gone because they went broke, you don't have it. And you want to get to Texas in this scenario. So sometimes reaching out to somebody who's going to work with you creatively is just the right answer.
Let me share an actual true story. This happened yesterday. So I live in Northern California, and we're kind of rural in some of the areas. And this is it's a mobile home on 30 acres, right?
30 acres.
30 acres, yeah. Beautiful property, beautiful views. I was looking at it like, this is amazing property. And the problem with this mobile is it's 1974, which means it's not financeable.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you're kind of stuck. But here's the sad part of the situation is they reached out to me because they saw one of my Facebook posts that I buy, challenged properties. Mm-hmm. They are basically, their back's against the wall, and they're asking $260,000 all cash for it. And to me, it's not worth that. It's worth about maybe $185. And I said, look, if I'm gonna pay all cash, I'll pay you $185 for it. And then they went on to tell me this sad story about how her mom just lost her leg and she needs to get to Missouri so that she can go take care of her. And her stuff is already on the way to Missouri. They paid a moving company $15,000 to move them to Missouri. Her house has been in escrow twice. Mm-hmm. She's in escrow in another property because she thought that she had this one sold. She lost that property, and now she lost her non-refundable deposit of $5,000. And so her life is kind of falling apart. Mm-hmm. And now she's at a place now where she's like, I can't afford to take that kind of a haircut because I need this much money for my down payment. Plus, I'm already into so many thousands of dollars for my moving costs, and I need a place for my mom. So all these poor things are happening to her. And I'm like, well, is this house worth it to you to get rid of? And she's like, no, it's not. I'm actually going to hold on to it. I'm like, oh, okay. But it's like the sad reality of what's happening in this, economy where people are making these decisions and they're moving cross country without actually having the house solved for in the first place. And it's like, unfortunately, I can't really help this individual, but those are the types of individuals that are going to be coming up to the surface that need my kind of help.
No. And again, so here's the deal, right? I've been doing this a long time. All of those scenarios happen all the time. That's in right. A raging economy, like the last couple of years, where
you just don't see them.
You don't see them, right? They get picked up. The lady still had a life. Life never stops. Exactly. It happens to everybody all the time. It's just when you have unfortunate timing and you need to let it go in a recession, an environment where lending is more expensive, where lending is, again, people don't realize there's a real estate cycle. I'm here to tell you there's a lending cycle. Sometimes lenders are easy, sometimes they are hard. And let me promise you, in a recession, they're about to get a little bit tighter.
So I had a mortgage company during the Great Recession, and it went belly up. And but before that happened, I think it was June of 2006 where they had the credit crisis.
Yep.
That was the first time ever in my lending history. And I wasn't like, hadn't been into it very long. I'd been into it about 3.5 years, started in 2002. And all of a sudden, could not write loans. Nobody was writing loans. And I'm like, how do you have a credit crisis? Like, how do you just like put the squash on everyone's mortgages?
Yeah.
That was a shock to me. And then I'm like, I'm young, I'm 23 years old, or I'm 26, kind of naive. I'm like, oh, that was just a one-time thing. That was a fluke. And then 2 years later, 2008 happens. And I'm like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's definitely a lending cycle people need to appreciate. So I want to give a special shout out to your bonus section. You put a lot of material in there, a lot of real examples. Why don't you remind people what's in that bonus section of the course that you added?
Yeah, of course. So creative financing is basically you're solving problems, but you're also selling solutions. Mm-hmm. And so you have to identify what is the problem that I'm going to solve. Mm-hmm. And for example, this mobile home person, I couldn't really solve their problem. They needed way too much money than I thought the house was worth. In most cases, though, it's taking over the debt. It's finding how do I take over this debt problem from them so that they can move on to where they need to go. Mm-hmm. And so it's all about soft skills, negotiations, understanding, the dynamics between what motivates people, greed, lust, maybe not so much lust in real estate, but, fear. Yeah. Are they motivated by the stick or by the carrot? And so it definitely goes into those softer skills that rarely get talked about. If you're looking for creative financing, just like by the numbers, here it is, I bought this house for this much, we did this and that, you can find that just about anywhere on YouTube. And this is why I chose to give you this aspect of it, because these are the soft skills that really don't get talked about, but are so crucial when it comes to negotiating in real life with someone that has a real difficult situation.
And let me just give you a special shout out to the soft skills. So, YouTube University kind of took off a couple of years ago, wholesaling, driving for dollars. It was all cash. Then non-QM lenders and hard money came in. It just fed the beast, right?
Right.
Let me just promise you, in the environment that I see coming, I mean, cash isn't going to be the answer most of the times, because you won't be able to offer the cash that resolves the problem. Right. I.e. the 30-acre mobile home, right? There is a number that makes sense for you, but it's not a number that resolves the problem. And thus you're stuck, right? You can't help. However, in many situations that are upcoming, it will be the softer skills. It'll be asking and then shutting up and listening, right? You have 2 ears and a mouth for a reason. And the reason I want to bring this up is a lot of you that are wholesaling today, and maybe even successfully wholesaling today, your world's about to get rocked. Because you're going to be doing ARVs and looking for spreads that don't exist. There's going to be 6 to 8% margins, maybe 10, 12. That's not enough for everybody to eat. And oh, by the way, in the lending environment, the other thing, talk about lending, right? What happened in 2020, April? Everybody who was doing flipping and said they had cash, they didn't have cash. They had loans from other providers. They dried up for like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That's going to happen again. So you need the softer skills. And if you have my course, How to Get Started One Rental at a Time already, go check out Ryan's amazing bonus. If you haven't, buy the course and then get all the bonuses for free. So
they could buy your course 100 times, but they could buy your course like 5 or 6 times over and still not even scratch what it is that I charge my students to get that information. So, I mean, your course is head and shoulders, I think, more robust than mine. And I believe that because you have so many experts and so many different, facets of it, mm-hmm. that you, for dollars for, your course out there, the dollar per amount of content you get per hour is just it's insanely.
Yeah. I keep being told, raise it to $9.99. I'm like, no, you guys aren't listening. I'm not doing this for the money.
No, yeah. And I mean, you're altruistic about it. That's what I love about it. Like, and you're such a giver, but I mean, like, gosh, like, I'll scholarship somebody. Like if they're stuck and they're like, hey, I can't do it, let me scholarship you. Let me just give you access to your course because it changes lives. I tell people you're just one deal away from changing your entire financial future. Yeah. And if they may not find it with financial or with the creative financing aspect of it, they might find it with another aspect of your course. you've changed someone's life, and not just, you know, temporarily, but generationally. Like it's
absolutely
a gift that you're giving to people. My God, I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing for $320. What's in there? And again, there's
it is.
It's it, $320. Yeah, and we get the private Facebook group, the Saturday Lives. It's fun.
I almost feel guilty for what I'm charging for mine. Man, please.
Yeah, and the other thing I love is, again, I have lots of experts in the group where I tag you occasionally. And I remember about a year ago, or maybe it's 2 years ago, when you took the course, you actually talked about a deal you would have missed.
Yes.
If you hadn't just, you know, heard something I talked about. So you remember that story?
I do. The buy box. That was the most critical thing. I'm like, he's right. He's absolutely right. It takes a little bit of time, but he's right.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, Ryan, thank you for all you do. How can people find you? Because you are truly helping people.
You know, probably the best bet to find me is just on Facebook. I'm all over the place, but if you want to find me on Facebook, it's under Ryan S. Nickel, and I, you know, Bootstrap REI on YouTube.
Yep. There you go. Thanks, buddy.
My pleasure.